Welcome to the Tennessee Military Collectors Association semi-annual Military Relics Show. This show has occurred twice a year since 1976 with over 300 tables full of military relics ranging from the Civil War to present day. This is a great show for military enthusiasts and collectors alike, and everybody should come check it out. Here inside the TMCA show, I'm here with Noah Jones. He's one of our younger members. Noah, what do you have today?
Hi, I have a German M42 half-basket chicken wire helmet that I got from one of my teachers back in high school. And it is for sale here at the show, and there are many other wonderful things here at the show. It is very friendly and such a wonderful place, so come on out.
I'm here with Mr. Tim Prince. He's one of the TMCA's longtime members. Mr. Prince, what do you have to show us today?
I'd like to show you an Allen Wheelock center hammer percussion Army revolver, 44 caliber revolver made during the very early part of the 1860s to compete with Colt, Remington, and some of the other American makers. Allen was based in Worcester, Massachusetts, and had been making revolvers for quite a long period of time, primarily making things like pepper boxes for the civilian market. Only about 1,000 of these revolvers were manufactured circa 1860 to 62, and roughly 600 of them were purchased by the U.S. military. The majority of those were issued at the 2nd and 3rd Michigan Cavalry during the course of the American Civil War. The gun had some interesting features. The loading lever was incorporated into the trigger guard. By lowering the trigger guard, the ratcheting system allowed you to load the revolver. It's a little different than the Colt and Remington systems. Also, unlike a Colt, it has a solid frame with a solid top strap, which makes this a more robust design.
Here we have one of our dealers, Ron Rubel, with one of the most interesting collections I've ever seen. What can you tell me about that mask back there?
This one?
Yes.
This is a World War II mask called an optical mask. It was used for looking through binoculars, rangefinders. This happens to be an Army mask. It was used by probably an artillery. They made a diaphragm so they could talk out of the mask, and so they could use their arms. They put the canister in the back that filtered the air. The Navy made the same mask, except the only difference is it said USN.
Here we have one of our life members of the TMCA, Mike Beck, with a really interesting book. What can you tell us about this book, Mike?
Yes, I'll be glad to. I'd like to introduce Forgotten Heroes, about 2 Congressional Medal honor winners from Hamlin County in East Tennessee. Hamlin County being the only county in the nation to have 2 Congressional Medal honor winners from Tennessee. Their names were Edward R. Talley and Calvin J. Ward. Both of them were members of the Old Hickory Division, 30th Division, and the story tells a little bit about the military experience, Camp Severe, but it tells more about their personal life and the hardships that these soldiers had when they came back home. This is sort of dear to me, to tell their story and what they sacrificed for all of us.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Howell. I'm president of the Tennessee Military Collectors Association, and we are here to present the Great War Award, World War I Award to Mr. Scott Gayheimer for his fine 1911 Colt display. I'm here with Emily Towns to my left, David Hoagie on my far right, who's the treasurer, and Mr. Gayheimer here. We're just presenting him his award and his $100 for his fine display.
Thank you very much. We always enjoy coming to the TMCA. It's always a good crowd. I really enjoyed putting this display together. what we tried to show here, we've got from the very beginning of 1911 production to the very end, we've got every manufacturer, every year, every finish, every final inspection. We show pretty well all the variations of the 1911s that would have been used in the Great War, World War I. So we want to thank the association for recognizing the work that we did, but honestly, it's not really work, it's a passion. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Here we have another one of our dealers, Terry Patton, with something very interesting that he wants to show us today.
This is a group of documents that belong to the aunt of Walter Duray, who was head of the Blood and Soil organization in Germany. And it starts out with a handwritten letter from his aunt to his sister, sending her, quote, precious Adolf Hitler letters for safekeeping and to pass on to the future generations. And it includes this letter thanking her for her donation to the party, signed by Rudolf Hess. And this dated the same as this one, thanking her for her contribution and sacrifice to the party, signed by Adolf Hitler. And then over here, she had contributed some homemade woolen goods to the poor people, and Hitler has written to her here, personal letter, thanking her for her sacrifice and time to do this, and it's also signed by Hitler. And it further comes with a signed photo of Walter Duray and another one here of him with Hitler, and then a portrait photo of his aunt with Hitler. Anyway, that's what this group is.
Here we have another one of our life members with the TMCA, Brian Akins. Brian, what are you going to show us today?
We've got a German chain dagger we brought to the show today. This would have been an officer's SS dagger. I brought a Confederate used shotgun. The South early on in the war, they were short firearms, so they were taking the locals' double-barrel shotguns and adapting them for military service by adding a bayonet lug to the end of their double-barrel shotguns. And then these bayonets were made to go on the civilian shotguns to make them military. Here's another item pertaining to the Confederate shotguns. This is a Confederate shotgun leather cartridge box. And it's got a wood insert in there for the cartridges for the shotgun. This particular box will be published in a book coming out in December of this year at the Civil War show here in Franklin. So this one will be a famous cartridge box here for too long. One of the neat things about the TMCA show is that you can come to one show and find relics from just about every war there ever was and every era. This is the Japanese late war officer's sword. This is about the end of the line. The handle is dated 1945, which they were still trying to make Japanese swords in 1945. That's kind of cool. They hadn't given up yet.
All right, here we have life member Jeff Schrader, life member of the TMCA. He has a really cool, frankly, World War I helmet. What can you tell us about it?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing for us, especially this year here at the TMCA. We're celebrating the centenary of World War I, being the 100th anniversary of American involvement. And one of the guys in World War I who had one of the most interesting jobs there was a Dr. Bashford Dean. He was curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He was a big collector of arms and armor, and when America decided to get involved in World War I, the Ordnance Department gave him a commission and put him in charge of trying to find a helmet that would be uniquely American for the American forces in Europe. They ended up just using a version of the British helmet, but in the meantime, there were a number of experimental helmets that he worked on with the Ordnance Department, one of which is the number 8 experimental. These were made by Ford Motor Company up in Michigan. They made about 1,300 of them. And They arrived in Europe just right after the armistice, right in November 1918 when everything was over and we didn't need them anymore. So most of them that we find are in really good condition because they weren't used. And it's my personal belief that most of them were souvenirs of the guys that worked in the Ford Motor Plant because they gave them out and let the guys keep one as a souvenir.
I'm here with Roy Chilson, a longtime member of the TMCA. What are you going to show for us today, Roy?
It's a water-cooled Browning, 1917, used in World War I and World War II. This one particular one was made by N.E. Westinghouse. You carry water in this can. It goes through this jacket and condenses back into this box down here. And they would have to keep repeating that to keep the gun cooled down enough where it wouldn't melt the barrel.
The Tennessee Military Collectors Association show meets twice a year. It's the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving and the Friday and Saturday before Easter. We're at the Franklin Marriott about 20 miles south of Nashville. And there are about 300 tables, over 1,000 local members, but we're always looking for new ones.